January 30th, 1944. Anzio beachhead, Italy.
Private Headman Vera Hoffman pressed against the concrete, recording what he had just witnessed. The Americans possess artillery of unimaginable power. Bunker Luisa no longer exists.
4 feet of reinforced concrete, gone in an instant.
A bunker rated to withstand direct hits from 210mm shells had been deleted from existence by a single round.
"32 men had vanished, along with tons of concrete and steel.
The weapon responsible, the M1 240mm howitzer.
Making its combat debut with the 697th Field Artillery Battalion.
What Hoffman and thousands of German defenders would discover was that every assumption about fortification warfare had become obsolete.
The U.S. Army had deployed a weapon
that could transform the strongest bunker into a tomb with mathematical precision.
The M1 240mm emerged from a 1940 U.S. Army Ordnance study
that concluded existing artillery could not defeat modern European fortifications.
The 155mm could damage, but not reliably destroy reinforced concrete.
The specifications demanded seemed impossible.
A mobile weapon, firing a 360-pound shell over 14 miles, penetrating 6 feet of concrete.
unlike the massive railway guns of World War I.
What emerged from Watervliet Arsenal was an engineering masterpiece.
Weighing 64,700 pounds, requiring a crew of 14.
And setup time averaged 8 hours.
Production began in November 1942.
Ultimately, exactly 315 units were manufactured. Each gun cost $380,000, equivalent to 12 Sherman tanks.
The 697th and 698th Battalions arrived at Anzio in January 1944.
The German 14th Panzer Corps had transformed the surrounding hills into a fortress system.
14:30 hours, January 30th, 1944. The first 240mm round fired in combat.
Target: a German observation post on the Alban Hills.
The round traveled 13 miles and scored a direct hit.
The bunker, along with its observation equipment and crew, ceased to exist.
Major Herman E. Smith, commanding the 697th, documented the weapon's psychological impact.
After our first day of firing, German prisoners reported complete demoralization.
They spoke of earthquake shells that made the ground shake for hundreds of meters.
Many refused to occupy bunkers after witnessing our strikes.
Anzio, the math of destruction.
Rounds fired 2,847. Bunkers destroyed 61. Average 4.8 rounds per bunker. The German 715th Infantry Division's War Diary noted,
American super heavy artillery makes our fortified positions untenable.
The breakthrough at Monte Cassino in May 1944.
Demonstrated the 240mm ability to crack the toughest positions of the Gustav Line.
The 240th Field Artillery Battalion joined Operation Diadem.
British Major General Francis Tucker, whose division had suffered terribly.
the American super heavy guns achieved what months of bombing had failed to accomplish. Each round that struck home eliminated a German strong point completely.
The psychological effect was decisive. They understood that nowhere was safe.
The 240mm howitzers fired continuously for 72 hours, 1,847 rounds.
Post-battle analysis showed 39 of 43 major German bunkers were completely destroyed.
The 4 surviving positions had been abandoned after near misses.
The effectiveness of the 240mm stemmed not just from its massive shell,
but from the entire American fire control system.
The Fire Direction Center (FDC) concept allowed unprecedented accuracy.
Target Kilo 4.
Bunker.
Requesting 240. Fire for effect. Target locations were transmitted to the FDC.
Where personnel used graphical firing tables and meteorological data
to compute firing solutions. Within 4 minutes, rounds could be impacting.
The time on target technique multiplied the psychological impact. Multiple batteries could place all their shells on target simultaneously.
A German bunker might receive 6 240mm rounds.
Over a ton of high explosive. Within a 2-second window. Without warning.
We don't fire barrages. We conduct surgical strikes. A forward observer identifies a specific bunker. We compute.
And we drop 1 or 2 rounds directly on it.
The precision terrifies the Germans more than volume of fire. Four M1 240mm howitzers participated in Operation Cobra.
The German 352nd Infantry Division had fortified every hedgerow and crossroads.
The 272nd Field Artillery Battalion brought their 240mm howitzers into action, systematically destroying strong points that had survived the massive carpet bombing on Hill 122.
American super heavy artillery makes our fortified positions untenable.
The breakthrough at Monte Cassino in May 1944.
Demonstrated the 240mm ability to crack the toughest positions of the Gustav Line. The 240th Field Artillery Battalion joined Operation Diadem.
British Major General Francis Tucker, whose division had suffered terribly.
American super heavy artillery makes our fortified positions untenable.
The breakthrough at Monte Cassino, in May 1944.
Demonstrated the 240 mm ability to crack the toughest positions of the Gustav Line. The 240th Field Artillery Battalion joined Operation Diadem.
German engineers had spent a year constructing fortifications.
The 697th positioned their howitzers in the valleys below. Using high-angle fire, they could drop shells almost vertically
onto German positions, carved into the reverse slopes of mountains.
The destruction of the Futa Pass fortifications.
German engineers had spent a year constructing fortifications.
The 697th positioned their howitzers in the valleys below.
Using high-angle fire, they could drop shells almost vertically onto German positions carved into the reverse slopes of mountains. The destruction of the Futa Pass fortifications.
The liberation of Strasbourg.
The German 553rd Infantry Division abandoned their positions
after losing 12 bunkers in 90 minutes.
Post-war analysis by U.S. Army engineers.
This revealed why the 240 millimeters proved so effective. The M17 shell used a hardened steel cap. Backed by 360 pounds of mass, traveling at 2,300 feet per second.
The resulting pressure surpassed any concrete's compression strength. More critically, the delayed fuse allowed penetration of 3 to 6 feet.
Before detonation.
The explosion inside the concrete mass.
Created what engineers termed sympathetic fracturing. Shock waves shattered entire structures from within. The high explosive shell contained 49 pounds of TNT. With aluminum powder additives, increasing blast effect by 40%. When fused for surface burst, it created craters 50 feet wide and 20 feet deep. Deployment of 240 millimeter howitzers required extraordinary logistical support.
50 to 100 shells Dale, 18 to 36 tons.
The ammunition supply chain stretched from Watervliet to the front lines.
Each shell required precision forging.
Machining to tolerances of 0.01 inches.
By March 1945, the U.S. Army had stockpiled over 500,000 240 millimeter rounds in European depots. Monthly consumption peaked at 35,000 rounds during the Rhine crossings. This represented industrial capacity that Germany, Japan, and the United States were about to throw.
Or even the Soviet Union could not match.
The Rhine crossing operations of March 1945.
Was preceded by the largest artillery preparation of the Western War.
"12 American 240 millimeter howitzers contributed to the bombardment.
The target, the Wesel fortified zone. Beginning at 1700 hours on March 23rd.
We had aerial photographs showing every bunker. Starting from the north, we worked our way south, engaging each position.
By midnight, we destroyed 31 bunkers.
The crossing met little resistance. German survivors reported complete demoralization. "2,400 casualties from artillery alone, most from bunker collapses."
The encirclement of Army Group B in the Ruhr pocket. Saw 240 millimeter howitzers, reducing industrial facilities converted to fortresses. The Krupp Steelworks in Essen was targeted. .240 millimeter rounds transformed the main factory buildings into twisted rubble. These weren't normal buildings. They were industrial fortresses. The 240mm shells went through them like tissue paper.
The psychological effect was total. 430,000 German troops surrendered.
The production of 315 guns represented American industrial mobilization.
The workforce peaked at 9,100 employees.
Working 3 shifts, 7 days a week. Women comprised 35% of the workforce.
Each gun barrel required 65 tons of special steel. .8847 individual machining operations. 72 hours of precision boring.
The quality control was exceptional.
Of 315 guns produced, no M1 240mm howitzer ever failed catastrophically in combat.
American production of 240mm ammunition defied German comprehension.
Total monthly production reached 10,000 rounds by early 1945.
The Red Ball Express included specialized vehicles for the 360-pound shells.
By April 1945, U.S. forces had expended 118,000 rounds.
Operating the M1 240mm demanded exceptional teamwork and physical endurance.
Load! Houston!
Each 14-man crew functioned as a precisely coordinated team.
The gunner, responsible for laying the weapon. Number 3 to 8, ammunition handlers. Number 9 to 10, operated the M2 crane.
The workforce peaked at 9,100 employees.
Working 3 shifts, 7 days a week. Women comprised 35% of the workforce.
Each gun barrel required 65 tons of special steel.
847 individual machining operations. 72 hours of precision boring.
The quality control was exceptional.
The concussion was like getting punched.
Knowing what our shells can do keeps us going.
The forward observers held one of the war's most dangerous jobs.
Positioned with frontline infantry, they identified targets.
Lieutenant Robert Anderson survived 187 days in combat.
His personal record included directing the destruction of 47 German bunkers.
Calling in 240mm was like summoning Thor's hammer.
I'd identify a bunker, radio the coordinates, and minutes later it would cease to exist.
The power was intoxicating, but sobering.
The psychological burden was significant. Forward observers could see the human cost.
Many reported nightmares decades after the war.
Captured German documents revealed the terror inspired by 240mm bombardment.
The Wehrmacht's experience fighting the Soviets, who relied on mass barrages,
had not prepared them for American precision firepower.
Enemy super heavy artillery represents a new form of warfare.
Individual bunkers are engaged with extreme accuracy.
Casualties from single shells exceed those from conventional barrage.
Morale effect is catastrophic. Troops refuse to occupy forward bunkers. Regular artillery we could endure.
But those monster shells broke our spirit.
When you saw a bunker disappear, you understood that nowhere was safe.
But those monster shells broke our spirit.
When you saw a bunker disappear, you understood that nowhere was safe.
American industrial capacity made the difference. 315 produced.
Comparative production. US 315. British 36.
But those monster shells broke our spirit.
When you saw a bunker disappear, you understood that nowhere was safe.
Many of my men shot themselves rather than wait for the next shell.
American industrial capacity made the difference. 315 produced. Comparative production. US 315, British 36.
But those monster shells broke our spirit.
When you saw a bunker disappear, you understood that nowhere was safe. American industrial capacity made the difference.
Comparative production. US 315, British 36. Soviet 47. German 8.
The American advantage lay not just in quantity, but in mobility.
At Cassino, these weapons were largely responsible for the breakthrough.
As Allied forces drove into Germany, every German city designated a fortress.
The siege of Aschaffenburg demonstrated the weapon's urban warfare capabilities.
The precision was remarkable. FOs could place 240mm rounds through specific buildings.
This selective destruction compelled many German commanders to surrender.
The capture of Nuremberg saw 3 240mm battalions in action.
The medieval fortifications crumbled under bombardment.
Those monster shells broke our spirit.
When you saw a bunker disappear, you understood that nowhere was safe.
Many of my men shot themselves rather than wait for the next shell.
American industrial capacity made the difference.
Comparative production: US 315, British 36.